Welcome, everybody, to the most must-see podcast to somebody, somewhere, anywhere in the world. I'm Frankie Court. This is Mark's Side of the Ring, and we are back for another week to talk things, all things professional wrestling. And what a week it has been, as is usually the case in the world of sports entertainment. But breaking news as I am recording this. It is Thursday night. You'll be seeing this probably Saturday or Sunday. But my boy, oh boy, have WWE done it again. They have released a mass exodus of talent that I can't believe that they released. The names are unrealistic when I tell them to you. And I had an idea for the show. We were going to talk about some current things. We were going to talk about Survivor Series, and maybe we will at the end a little bit. But I have to talk the majority of the time about the releases that WWE has just done. And to be honest, I don't understand them. Now, granted, I'm not a businessman working for WWE. I don't understand what their game plan is. Everybody thinks it's to sell. I don't necessarily believe that. I think they are just trying to have as little overhead as possible. They are trying to cut costs at all possible, in all possible ways. So, but I mean, talent is their, as WWE has often been quoted as saying, is their only natural resource. And they're getting rid of their natural resources. I mean, listen, not everybody is going to be a Roman Reigns. Not everybody is going to be, Bobby Lashley or Sasha Banks or Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch or whoever. But you need a thick-filled roster. And with them having two brands, I'm not counting NXT, but two brands, you definitely need talent. I mean, there's maybe a possibility that they don't have enough talent already, and now they're releasing more. I'm gonna read off this list of names here. Some of them I can't believe: Frankie Monet, Ember Moon, Jessie Kamea, Katrina Cortez, Jeet Rama, Oni Lorcan, Trey Baxter, Zeta Ramir, Scarlett, B-Fab, Grand Metalik, Lindsay Dorado, Karrion Kross. We're going to get to all this. I'm just listing them right now. Harry Smith, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Keith Lee, and Mia Yim all released. And apparently the reason giving were due to budget cuts. Listen, I do believe budget cuts to a sense, but at some point it's just a company line, because you don't release a guy like Karrion Kross who can potentially be a main event star for you in a couple of years because of, budget cuts. You know what I mean? Sometimes, they're worth the investment. And maybe they're looking, they don't want talent that's going to be hot in a couple of years. They want now. But you got to build stars. You should have been concerned about this then a few years ago. Building people. And to start things off, Karrion Kross, are you kidding me? This guy was a star in NXT, and I understand it's NXT. It's a completely different environment. And sure, his main roster run hasn't been anything spectacular, but whose fault is that? They sent him out there in a fucking dominatrix mask like an asshole. I mean, really? And no Scarlett. Where's Scarlett? That was the whole package, the song. They got rid of the entrance. The entrance, it's all part of it. I mean, they know this. They created this. They created where it's all encompassing. It's a whole, a whole package. Karrion Kross, Scarlett was a package. And the entrance was part of it, and the music and the look and everything. And they got rid of it all. They got rid of Scarlett. They had the song, but they didn't have the entrance that went with it. There was no smoke. There was no, Scarlett was a big part of that entrance. And then, they had him lose in the beginning, which I was okay with. They had him lose to Jeff Hardy and it turned into a thing. But then they have him start coming out with this fucking mask. It's ridiculous. He didn't get a fair shake. I mean, there's no denying that. So if you're basing your release on his main roster work, okay, but that his main roster work was not his fault. Anyway, I digress. I'm very mad that Karrion Kross and Scarlett got released. They were very talented, and I think they could have been money players for the main roster. like they were in NXT. They just weren't given the opportunity. Speaking of guys that were money guys on NXT that I think could have been on the main roster, but didn't get the right shot, Keith Lee, who's Bearcat Keith Lee, because God forbid we don't just keep him the name that he was in NXT as Keith Lee, because that fucking worked all these years. Now all of a sudden that's not good enough. It's just it's ridiculous. You know, Keith Lee was so good on NXT. Now, granted, he was one of those guys that WWE wouldn't have even signed 10, 15 years ago. But that's what made him cool. That's what made it cool that he was there, is that he wasn't supposed to be there, right? And he's talented. He was good. People bought into him. They liked him. And I remember saying, you know, I said the same thing about Karrion Kross, but they're doing good now. Wait till these guys are main roster talents. You know, they weren't like indie-rific guys, you know. I mean, you know, the small guys, you know, doing all these flips and flops. I mean, yeah, they can, you know, well, Keith anyway could do some crazy, you know, aerial stuff, but, you know, they were main roster talents, in my opinion. And I'm shocked that these two guys are the guys that are getting let go. Just, I mean, from the start, he had a hot start. You know, he debuted on the Raw after SummerSlam. I don't remember if he beat Orton that Raw, or I know he beat him they did that pay-per-view a week later, Payback, and he beat him. But I don't know. But he had a big first Raw, and then he faced Orton and beat him. And he had a couple good, you know, moments. I mean, and then he had the health issue and was gone for a while, and then he came back, and it's been stop and start for a while. But just never had the right opportunity. And then they finally re-debuted him, gave him the Bearcat nickname, which I didn't mind. I mean, it was based on a former wrestler back in the day. I forget his full name, but Bearcat Wright, I think, was his name. So it was in homage to him. So I didn't mind it, but, you know, I don't think he needed it, you know, but it is what it is. Anyway, if it was going to give him the opportunity to, you know, make a star out of himself on the main roster, I was all for it. And it didn't happen. Just a shame. Wasted talent. Also released his fiancée, Mia Yim, who barely got a chance on the main roster. She was, I think, her name in Retribution, which was a whole debacle in itself, was Reckoning, and she was involved in that for a little bit, and then she was gone, and she never re-debuted as Mia Yim. She may have worked some dark matches, but no regular TV matches as Mia Yim that I can recall. But she was a great star in NXT. She had a different look, and she brought a different vibe, and I think she brought diversity to the women's division. But obviously the powers that be didn't feel that way. So another woman that got released from the women's division, Frankie Monet. Again, not even given the opportunity on the main roster at all. Barely given an opportunity on NXT. She only just debuted in April, right after WrestleMania, and they were making her a big deal. And she had a few matches, and she didn't wrestle, which was fine. It doesn't matter that she didn't wrestle all the time. I like that. I like when it's special when they wrestle, but it made her feel like a bigger star. But she hasn't really done much. I don't know why. I think she could have been a huge asset to the women's division. Not only was she great talent, but she's a veteran, and she could have really helped, you know, bring along some of the younger talent, whether it was in NXT or on the main roster. They need veteran talent to work with to get better, but I don't know. But and ironically, John Morrison's wife, so that's interesting. But another great talent let go. Also in the women's division, BFAB. Now, I'm not saying she was ready for great in-ring stuff, but that's okay. She didn't need to be. Her role was to be a part of Hit Row, you know, and Hit Row just debuted, and apparently they're going to be a big act on SmackDown. Like, why would you get rid of a part of your big act? I thought the fact that they had a woman in there made that group different. You know, you had the girl now, and she could rap. She lived up to the act. You know, her in-ring stuff, I mean, she can get by if she needed to, you know. and she didn't need to wrestle. Not everybody needs to. I mean, just, I think she could have been a big star if given a chance, given time, and given an opportunity. It wasn't her call to get called up to the main roster, but she's not ready for the main roster. Well, then why did you bring her up to the main roster if she wasn't ready? Then don't bring her up. Keep her in NXT. Hell, if she wasn't ready for NXT, she should have never been on NXT. She should have still been working in the performance center. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But what are you going to do? Some of the other names that were big, Grand Metalik wanted to be released. He's made that very clear. He was unhappy. I get it. They hadn't really used him or Lince Dorado, Lucha House Party. So, it's surprising, but that one that, at least Grand Metalik, I don't know about Lince. He wanted to be released. So, it's a shame, but that is what it is. It just didn't work out. And with Kalisto had already been released. He wanted to be let go a while back too. All three members of Lucha House Party are now gone, which is kind of crazy. But two talented guys, all these people are going to find work. A couple of them I'm sure will definitely end up in AEW and be big stars there. And there's Impact, and the indies are going to be hot, with things opening back up. Another name, Ember Moon, another big name. She's kind of bad strings of luck. She had her great NXT run, went to the main roster, thought she was going to do great. Hit or miss, kind of, not great. Then she was injured. She had a really bad Achilles injury, came back and showed up on NXT. And that was going good for a while. And then that kind of, went wayside. And now she hasn't really been doing anything. But it's still surprising because she's an uber talent. I think that we could have seen more from her, and I'm sure we will wherever she ends up. Just besides that first run in NXT, just never seemed to be able to get off the ground running, and it's too bad because she definitely is talented enough to do it. Just didn't work out. Let's see, Jessie Kamea. She hasn't really done much. She was doing stuff with Frankie Monet and the Robert Stone brand. But she had been on NXT for a while. It's unfortunate, but that kind of is what it is. Katrina Cortez, I think, has been on NXT TV a handful of times, but not much to really write about. Zeta Ramir, I don't even know who that is, to be honest. That's terrible, but I really don't. Oney Lorcan. Man, Oney Lorcan, he's a talented guy, and I enjoyed the tag team work with him and Danny Burch. Sorry, name eluded me for a second. Danny Burch is out with an injury right now, but I just find it interesting that Oney got let go, and then he was doing the stuff with Pete Dunne. So it's surprising. He's a real talented guy. He's not going to have any trouble finding work, that's for sure. Harry Smith. I mean, boy, you talk about not getting an opportunity. They rehired him around WrestleMania time. He's never even been on TV. Apparently, there was rumors over the summer that he was going to be a big part of the NXT UK brand. That never happened. So I don't know what's going on. Nothing's going on now, but what was going on with that? But obviously he's talented. I was so happy for him when he got re-signed after all that time, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, they decided to cut ties. It's too bad. Talented guy, and I'm a big fan of second generation talent. And I think, while it's hard to be a second generation talent, I think he was one of the ones that definitely could have made it. It didn't work out the first go around, but he's got more experience now. And that's another one, like I said, with Frankie Monet being a veteran, is so is he could help younger talent work, but unfortunately not. Let's see what else we got here. This is a huge one that I can't believe. Nia Jax. I mean, Nia Jax, what? She's one of your biggest female stars. I mean, granted, she hasn't been a women's champion in a while, but she's been involved. I mean, she took time off. I don't think she was hurt. But I don't know why she's been off TV a little bit, but I mean, she did this stuff with Shayna, and Shayna took her out. I don't know if there was a legit injury or if she was just taking time off, but I mean, I don't have to explain about Nia Jax. I mean, she explains herself. She's a star. She's big time, but shocking. I don't even have words. Speaking of not having words, Eva Marie, really? You just signed her. She just debuted. What was it, June? I mean, she was taking time off now to film a movie, but You obviously made a big deal out of her. Like, she's got a close relationship with Vince, so that's interesting. I don't get that. Now, listen, I'm not saying even Marie is the most talented wrestler out there, but her look is great. She has a great character. She can get by in the ring. Like, again, not everybody needs to be the best wrestler of all time. It's entertainment, right? It's entertainment. You always tell us that it's entertainment. I don't know. I thought it was entertainment. So she's entertaining to me. So don't get that. Shocking. Just re-signed. Trey Baxter, he's been on NXT. I think he did some stuff on 205 Live. Not really much with him. Jeet Rama, he's been on some NXT. He may have been part of the show they did for India last year, the Superstar Spectacle. But he hasn't done much. But, another one sad to see, get let go. But in these names, I mean, some of the big names, I'll go over them again. Frankie Monet, Ember Moon, Scarlett, Karrion Kross, B-Fab, Nia Jax, Eva Marie, Keith Lee, and Mia Yim. I mean, just insane. Absolute insanity. I can't believe it. It's shocking to me. They're going to all end up on their feet. This is not the end for them. They're going to find a place. I mean, Karrion Kross in AEW is, is just a match made in heaven. I think Keith Lee in AEW. I could see any of them in AEW. They could all end up in Impact too. I hate to see them go to. No offense to Impact, but it's like wasted talent to go there. It's so small now and like so rinky dink. But if they're gonna pay you decent and it's a job, go for it. But I'm hoping a lot of these end up in AEW. And that just goes to show you that WWE really doesn't care about AEW. Everybody doesn't believe that, but they wouldn't let go of talent that they were concerned of going to AEW, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. But look, it happened after WrestleMania. A lot of people were on the WrestleMania card and then got let go. There's really no rhyme or reason. I mean, with Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, I mean, those names got released previously this year. I mean, nobody believed it, but I'm really shocked by these names. It's always going to continue to shock me. Nothing's off the table now. That just goes to show you. Sometimes I forget who's even still on the roster or not. It's like, wait, did they get released? Or are they? It's terrible. But it is unfortunate. Ironically, I'm going to talk about Survivor Series a little bit, and they didn't survive this round of cuts. That's unfortunate, but nonetheless, Survivor Series will go on with or without that talent, and obviously without. It'll be here by the time you're watching this. It'll be 2 weeks away, which is crazy. They haven't officially announced any matches. They've been alluding to Roman versus Big E. They've been alluding to Charlotte and Becky Lynch. They've been alluding to a Survivor Series elimination match with Raw versus SmackDown, but nothing's been officially announced yet. So I expect this week something to be officially announced. Now, the whole thing with the Big E Roman Reigns match is, the whole Seth Rollins Big E thing. Does that happen before Survivor Series? I talked about this on the podcast last week. I mentioned that, it wouldn't be the first time that a championship changes hands before the event, and therefore the title match changes. So it could still be, Roman versus Seth. I hate to see that happen for Big E. I'm not against Seth and Roman. I would love to see that. I hope to see that at some point. I think it's a WrestleMania main event, but I don't want to see Big E lose it right now, and I don't think he should. And I think Roman and Big E would be a high profile match and something cool to see. So we'll see what happens with that. But so yeah, nothing on the Survivor Series front as far as official match announcements or anything, just alludements. So hopefully by this time next week, we will have an understanding a little bit better of what the card is going to look like come Sunday, November 21st in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. I'll be there, and I'm excited for it. One of the classics, hopefully it's a good one. I think it'll be. I mean, it's Survivor Series. It'll be good. But you just go over some things in the news of this week that happened. Everything is okay, I guess, on the Charlotte WWE front. She was on SmackDown last week. She alluded to uh, the talk of the town with that that happened with the title swap the previous week. So I don't know if that was fueled, online to create buzz for Charlotte and Becky. It may have been. Who knows? Shotzi Blackheart turning heel in the process. She got involved. Sasha Banks, got involved in her and Charlotte's match. Kind of cost Shotzi. Shotzi had enough and beat the crap out of Sasha. So yeah, Shotzi is now a heel, which is I think it'll be good for her. She'll do good in any role. She's talented. I'm glad she didn't get released. Raw, we saw Becky and Bianca for the women's championship. Becky retaining it. A little underhanded, but she retained it nonetheless. Raw was good. SmackDown was good as always. No Roman Reigns on SmackDown last week, which I thought was interesting. I'm not complaining about it. I think it's refreshing that he's not there. If he's not there, I mean, he is there most weeks, but it was kind of refreshing that he wasn't. Makes it seem special when he is. And of course, the whole Roman Brock Paul Heyman situation is alive and well, even though Brock is suspended and Roman wasn't on the show. But Heyman was asked about Brock's suspension, and it was good stuff. I'm curious to see how Roman and Brock continues. How does Brock come back from suspension? Does it just get lifted eventually, and he just shows up? They could just do that. It really doesn't need a grand explanation. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. A lot can go on in that feud. That's the thing I was talking about last week. When do you do Roman and Brock? Do you do it? Obviously, you do it at Mania. Do you do another one in between? Do you do day one? Do you do the Rumble? Or do you just save it for Mania? I think they could do one in between, I think, if done right. But if they can stretch it to just Mania, that'd be, I guess, even better. But it depends. It depends what they do. And I'm confident that feud is going to be untouchable, so they could do whatever they want with it. Damien Priest killing it on Raw still. He's still the U.S. champ, killing it. Glad to see that for him. The Usos, they had a match with the New Day on SmackDown last week. That was kind of cool to see that feud rekindled. I'm curious what they do with the tag titles with Survivor Series. I would love to see the Usos versus RK Bro, but that hasn't been even alluded to. So I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But there's a lot to look forward to. And one other thing I wanted to bring up before we start closing out here is the Kevin Owens promo that he talked about. He said something he doesn't know what's in store. It could be 3 months or 3 years. That was a good little wink and a nod to his contract talk expiring. His contract expired. The talk of his contract expiring. So I don't know what's going on the Kevin Owens front, but it is interesting that he said that. I feel like I don't know if WWE would let him say that if he didn't resign, but who knows? And also, speaking of contracts expiring, apparently Kyle O'Reilly's contract expires in December. So there's a rumor there that he may not resign. I don't know. Obviously, I don't see him being a big star on the main roster. But again, I thought Keith Lee and Karrion Kross would be, and they obviously weren't. So you never know what could be and what couldn't be. I'm curious to see what goes on with that. We'll have to see. It's going to be interesting, though. But I hope Kyle stays. It's crazy to think, though, that if Kyle leaves, the Undisputed Era, the original Undisputed with Roddy Strong, could be in AEW, which would be freaking crazy. Absolute insanity. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see come December. But anyway, just wanted to catch everybody up on the ins and outs of the week going on in all things professional wrestling and the breaking news of all these major releases. Where will they end up? The NXT guys only have 30 days. They don't have 90 like the main roster. So you should be seeing some of these people on your television screen somewhere very, very soon. I'll be there watching with you and here to tell you all about it. For Mark's Side of the Ring, I'm Freddie Court, and we will see you next week.